One day, Percy was resting at the station when Thomas pulled in with his two coaches, Annie and Clarabelle. "Hello, Percy. Lovely day, don't you think?" asked Thomas. "Oh, yes, Thomas," said Percy, "but I do wish I could get a brand new coat of paint." "Say, Percy, can you do me a big favor for me, please?" Percy smiled. "Oh, of course, Thomas. What do you need?" "I have some freight cars that I have to take to the goods yard, but I still need to make a few more stops on my branch line. Can you take the freight cars for me, please?" Suddenly, Percy felt worried. He knew that Gordon's Hill was on the way to the goods yard, and he was afraid that the freight cars would be naughty and push him down. But he didn't want to say no to his friend. Okay, Thomas. Sure thing." "Splendid," said Thomas. "I'll have the freight cars ready for you at Knapford Station. Goodbye, and thank you." "Oh dear, what shall I do?" groaned Percy. Later, Percy made it to the station where the silly freight cars were waiting for him.
"Oh, great. Looks like the green caterpillar's pulling us."
"Be quiet," snapped Percy. Once it was time to leave, Percy whistled beep beep and started off. As Percy went down the line, the cars started whispering behind him. Percy grew very worrisome. Eventually, Percy saw Gordon's Hill in the distance. "Oh dear, the foolish freight cars will surely push me down the hill," he groaned. At last, Percy slowed down as he climbed up Gordon's Hill. As poor Percy struggled up the hill, he became more worrisome. The silly freight cars were chattering and laughing behind him. Percy knew they were up to no good. Come along, Percy called to the cars, hoping that they would listen. Then there was trouble. It turns out Percy was right. His worst fears had come true. The naughty freight cars ended up pushing Percy down the hill and were laughing and giggling behind him. On! Yelled the silly freight cars. Help! They're pushing me! Cried Percy. As Percy sped helplessly over the bridge, he got an idea. Thinking fast, he applied his brakes as hard as he could, but he was still going too fast. Up ahead, he could see the goods yard. Percy shut his eyes and braked hard as he ever could. I've got to stop! He yelled. At last, Percy's brakes slowed him down, and he was back to his normal speed. Exhausted but triumphant, he finally made it to the station in the goods yard. I made it! Thank goodness! Just then, Thomas arrived. You did it, Percy! Congratulated Thomas. Thank you so much. You've been a really big help. Anytime, Thomas, puffed Percy. But it wasn't easy. The silly freight cars tried to push me down the hill, but I applied my brakes just in the nick of time. That's great, Percy. You did a better job than I did when I first pulled freight cars. Oh, and by the way, I remember you telling me you wanted a new fresh coat of paint. So I talked to Sir Topham Hatt and told him the big favor you were doing for me today, and he said yes. Really? Oh, thank you, Thomas! Exclaimed Percy. Anytime, Percy. Consider it as a reward for your hard work today. And Sir Topham Hatt says you're a really useful engine. Percy was delighted. He was so happy he got to help out his friend Thomas and get a new coat of paint like he wanted. And Thomas was so thankful for Percy's help. And they were very happy engines.